Hello and welcome. I'm Raghav, and today we are going to see the interesting history of JavaScript. We will see how JavaScript was created. Let us go back to the era of 90s, and 90s was the era of internet and browser. In the year 1992, National Center for Supercomputing Applications, or NCSA, created a browser called Mosaic, and this is how the browser looked like. A very simple browser, but it was very effective at that period. And in 93, this browser was finally released to public by NCSA, and it became very famous and very popular. There were some other browsers that existed during that time, however they did not had the same impact on public as Mosaic browser. Then in 93 and 94, a person called Mark Andreessen, who was also in the team of Mosaic development, he left NCSA and came to California where he met James Clark, and together they created a new company called Mosaic Communication Corporations. And the idea was to bring more features and functionality to the Mosaic browser. They founded this company, which later became Netscape Communications Corporation, and then this became Netscape Communication later on in the year 94, and then they created their own browser called Netscape Navigator. And the internal code name of this company's browser, that was Netscape Navigator, was Mozilla, which was a blend of Mosaic and Godzilla. And today, Firefox browser that we all know is like a grandson of Netscape Navigator browser. In 1994, the Netscape Navigator, or it was earlier released as Mosaic Netscape, was released in the December of 1994, and within a very quick time it became very popular and it has taken over most of the browser market, and it has left Mosaic browser far behind. And to avoid the name and the trademark ownership with NCSA, the browser was then renamed as Netscape Navigator, and the company was also renamed as Netscape Communications. So this happened in 1994, and then in 94 later and in 95, there was a thought that browsers and web needs to be more dynamic. Until then, the web was very static. There was a static HTML behind a browser web page, and there were no interaction with the user. There were no animations. So Mark Andreessen, he had a vision that web should be more dynamic. There should be more animations and interactions, and he said that the HTML of the browser needs some scripting language or a glue language that can be used to bring more interactions and more animations, images, and it can become more dynamic to work with. And that is when in 95 Netscape Communications recruited a person called Brendan Ike. Now Brendan Ike, his original goal was to embed the scheme programming language into Netscape Navigator browser. However, there was some thoughts from the superior. That time Java was a very popular programming language, and to cash upon the popularity of Java, they wanted the syntax to resemble Java. And then within 10 days, Brendan Ike created a first version, and in order to accommodate with the Navigator 2.0 browser beta schedule, it was created within 10 days, and then it was shipped with Navigator 2.0 beta. It was originally called Mocha. So the language, the programming or the scripting language was called Mocha. It was then renamed as LiveScript in September 1995, and eventually later it was named as JavaScript. So it was named as Mocha initially, then LiveScript, and then it was renamed as JavaScript in December 1995, and it was deployed in the Netscape Navigator browser 2.0 beta release. Now the name, there is a problem with the name. Do not confuse JavaScript with Java. There is no similarity between JavaScript and Java. The syntax, the implementation, everything is different. There is only the name which is similar, and many people believe that the idea behind having the name was to cash on the popularity of Java programming language, which was very hot and popular at that time. So that was the only reason. Otherwise, JavaScript and Java are two different programming languages. In 96, Netscape submitted a JavaScript to ECMA International, which is an international body, so that there can be some standard specifications for JavaScript, and once it becomes a standard, it can be used by other browsers as well. So this led to the release of language specification, which is called as ECMAScript in 1996, and it became a standard for JavaScript. And this I have told you in the earlier session as well. ECMA is European Computer Manufacturers Association, and it creates standards, and ECMAScript or ES as popularly known as is a specification, and JavaScript conforms to this specification. So JavaScript conforms to the ES specifications, and JavaScript was released in March 96 in Netscape Navigator 2.0 and Internet Explorer 2.0. However, then in 96 it was submitted to ECMA International so that there can be some standards, and then it was finally released in 97 with the ECMA standard. So it became officially as a standard of ECMA, and there were other scripting languages like ActionScript and JScript, which are other well-known implementations of ECMAScript. So this is all what happened in 1996, and then in the later years between 95 and then the 2000 era, there were some more implementations of JavaScripts. Netscape also introduced an implementation of language for server-side scripting, and then there was introduction of Ajax in 1999, which returned the JavaScript to the spotlight. And then in the mid 2000 there was some additional server-side JavaScript implementation, and finally in 2009 there was Node.js, which can also be used as a server-side JavaScript implementation. Today we know JavaScript as the most popular programming languages of the web, and not just web. JavaScript has grown a lot. We can use it outside webs as well, and then there is a comprehensive JavaScript frameworks. Today you can use JavaScript outside web. You can create full-fledged UI applications, web, mobile and desktop applications as well with JavaScript. So with all this knowledge and appreciation for all the great people who were involved in creating and making JavaScript what it is today, we will now go more deeper in JavaScript from the next sessions, and we will understand the concept and then start learning programming with JavaScript in a very basic step-by-step way. I hope this was very useful and interesting to you. I will meet you in the next video of JavaScript. Thank you for watching.